You're going to tell them one tip and it's going to change their day, their week, their lives even, right? And so I was looking for this in training people, and even now I'm looking for the spark in their eye where they're going to be like, wow, that is changing things for me, right?
Hello, everybody, and welcome for a new episode of There's a Workshop for That. Today, I have the great pleasure to welcome Alex Judges, a learning experience designer and facilitator with a real gift for turning training into transformative, human-centered journeys. One of his key areas of expertise is co-designing training and leadership programs in close collaboration with his clients. And for this, he created a signature workshop he uses to collect all the information needed to start this work with the client. It's a powerful example of how a well-designed format can clarify needs, align expectations, and lay the foundations of impactful work. I had the pleasure to work alongside Alex 2 years ago. We are in 2026. We designed together a session for one of your clients that I had the privilege to facilitate in Paris. So I know how intentional you are and thoughtful in all your process. And we will learn more about the way you're working. If you are a trainer, consultant, or facilitator looking also to design your own signature workshop, this episode is for you. Hi, Alex. Welcome to There's a Workshop for That.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Finally, how long have we been talking about this episode?
I don't know. For ages, I think. Busy lives. So that's why it took so long. But I'm very happy that we managed to actually make it happen.
So you sound very English from your accent, but you are actually what nationality do you have?
I'm half English, so I got some English origins. But actually, fun fact is I learned English at school when I was little. My mother was speaking English really well, and she still is speaking English really well. She's still here with us. And so basically, I learned with her when I was around 13 years old. But I had a grandma in England. I have an uncle, and that's why I think that I picked up on the accent quite early in my life. So that's why.
Yeah, for me it's strange because normally we speak French with each other. So
we do. We definitely do.
So Alex, your path is super rich. You are coming from the training, learning, and development area. You are doing also facilitation, and you are also now doing consulting. I would like you to take a little step back and would just want to hear what sparked your interest in working with groups and how did that evolve into what you are doing today.
All right. So I'm going to start at the beginning. So my mother was a teacher. And so I think that growing up, I learned some methods. Well, she tried to use methods on me. Did it work or didn't work? I don't know. But she used methods on me, and so I think that after this, I was drawn to handling groups and teaching and everything because when you walk in the footsteps of your father or your mother, then there was a high probability that I would end up doing what I do now. Anyway, but what sparked the interest, I think that I wanted to come back on in 2010. I was working at Apple. I was a specialist, so just a sales representative in a retail store. And just after a few months of working there, I was asked if I wanted to have an extra mission on the side, which was handling sessions for our business customers. And so basically at the time, they were called business workshops, by the way. And so we would train our customers on how to handle a Mac and how to handle an iPhone in order to be more efficient. And so I did that. And these were 1 hour sessions, 1 hour and a half. And I did that for quite a while, actually. And I loved it. And I think that at that time, when you said what sparked my interest, I think that this is when I figured out that what I loved in training people was the fact that sometimes it's just one thing, right? You're going to tell them one tip and it's going to change their day, their week, their lives even, right? And so I was looking for this in training people. And even now, I'm looking for the spark in their eye where they're going to be like, wow, that is changing things for me, right? So that's haha moment where you're like, okay, what I learned is actually going to change things for me. And so I'm going to fast forward after 2010. I became a manager. I was training my teams. And then I became a trainer for new store openings for the managers. And so after this, I was doing a few sessions a year, but that was not enough for me. I was like, okay, I think I know what I want to do in my life. And so I decided then to change careers. I was in retail and I switched to a consulting company and I started at the bottom, being a project manager, handling projects for companies. And in that company was specializing in neuroscience and how to create blended learning pathways. I learned everything, right? I learned how to create impactful trainings, how to handle projects and so on and so forth. And it was great. I had a great experience over there. And a few years back, I say, you know what? Maybe I can do that on my own, right? Maybe I can actually be my own man. And so I decided to create my own company and to focus on something that I love, which is engagement in people. How to engage people, whether it's in a workshop, in a training, in a seminar, in a team, right? In a meeting. And so I dedicated my career and what I do with my clients, consulting work, is all about how to create engaging experience, whatever the experience is. Even if I have to be honest, I focus on building trainings and building seminars. These are two things that I do all year. Sometimes they call me to say, hey, how can we build a strategy to engage our team, or how can we build a strategy to be better in the future? So that will go through a workshop. I think that answering that question, what sparked that interest was Mummy first, and then Apple with those workshops. And so here I am now, and it's been a few years now, having my own company. And I have to be honest, I'm going to say everything is going on well. My customers are calling me back for more. So I think that there is something I must do right.
And I know that you are doing a lot right. I mean, you are combining all you've been learning about creating training with facilitation to create even more engagement. And this is what I love.
Okay.
Can you remember the first workshop that you designed and facilitate?
Yeah. So that consulting company, there was a method, because sometimes we would help customers to design training, which were really complicated, right? And so at the time, it was actually a few weeks after starting in that company, my boss said to me, all right, Alex, we would like you to get involved in a project, and we're going to have to do a co-design workshop. And so I didn't know what was a co-design workshop. I didn't know how we would handle it. And he said to me, it's going to be a 2-day workshop in order to make sure that the end results is going to be the great one, is going to be a great end result, right? And it was about building training on digital marketing, which was something quite technical. We didn't have the knowledge within the company. And so this was my first experience. It was my first project and it was my first experience. And I have to be honest, didn't really go that well because it was blurry. I had to give a lot of energy. The structure was not really structured in a way. It was like a big meeting for 2 days with some deliverables, with several deliverables for 2 days. But it was heavy. It was a really heavy process. And
but
so
this is always the thing when we have such a thing at the beginning. You know, okay, this is exactly what I don't want to do in the future, right?
Yeah, and it's heavy. People don't know where they're going and why they're going in that direction. And you know, you have to lead them from step 1 to step 134. And you're like, okay, once I'm going to get there, it's going to be awesome. But how are we going to get there? And so, yeah, again, that was a great experience because I learned so much. And but at the same time, I know why I'm not doing that kind of workshop anymore.
And this is what brings us to your signature workshop. Because I always preach facilitators who have an experience in what they are doing to try to pack their experience, to create it or to pack it in their own workshop, whether it's a workshop to open and to make a diagnostic to then propose other service to a company, or a workshop that they can promote because this is something specific, or a workshop that it inside your own methodology for all the things that you are doing with your clients. And I would say this is the third options. In your case, you
Definitely.
have created a workshop that you use each time you work with your clients, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think that coming back to the experience, and then I had several others after this. I there was something missing, right? In those workshops, it was either too long or it was too short, and so it required for me to work a lot. And so I had to find a way to make sure that I would go in the right direction with my clients, because most of the time people they know where they want to go, right? It's clear in their mind, but it's difficult for them to express it to someone else. And so being a consultant, this is what you need to do. So you take a lot of time and a lot of meetings in having the right people in the room and making sure that everybody can express themselves. And sometimes the manager is going to shout louder than the others. And so we're going to go in the direction that he or she wants. And it's not maybe the right direction for participants. So I needed to find a framework that I can accompany my client with that will work every time, and that would be efficient. Because the problem was that having these meetings, if you have 3, 4, 6 meetings that last 6 months, right? And companies, they don't have that kind of time. I don't want to take 6 months to create a training pathway, right? I want to take a bunch of hours and then give them something to chew on. And maybe we're going to have a back and forth, but everybody was in the same room at the same time. Framework is working. And at the end of the workshop, we have a kind of an understanding of where we want to go. And this is why I created this. And you're right. You're totally right. I use that every single time, whether it's for designing a seminar, a training, an e-learning, whatever it is. It's always the same framework. It's always the same. I even use this. I tweak it a little bit. I change it a little bit. But I even use this for strategies, for, again, whatever the topic is, it's going to be the same basic framework. And then I adapt it depending on what the customer wants or where we want to go.
And you go, so your workshop, so to say, the process of your workshop is actually the framework, right?
Yeah, and the framework is always the same. And as I said, I'm going to tweak it. I'm going to change it a little bit. If it's a seminar, if it's a training pathway, a big one, then I'm going to add some extra steps, or I'm going to duplicate the same framework over and over again. It's what I'm doing at the moment with a client, where it's a program, and as it's a program, the first workshop was all about designing the actual program. So all the steps, so the journey. Once I have the journey, I'm going to take the same framework and adapt it to one step. So one module. I do that for first module, and then so on and so forth until we reach the last module. And so every time it's the same thing. And again, I adapt it a little bit. But other than that, I'm gonna have to say I found a way that it's working. It's simple for the customers. I feel like my workshop is 2 hour long, so I switch from 2 days to 2 hour long.
2 hours.
And sometimes what I'm going to do is I'm going to say to my clients, maybe we're going to need more than one, but I have stopped putting people for 2 or 3 days in a room where at the end, you know that they're going to say yes to you because they're so tired and they can't be bothered anymore. So you can lead them wherever you want. You want them to be led. And the next day or the next week, when you do that kind of meeting to say, all right, how did it go and everything? They had time to reflect and to relax. And they're going to tell you, you know what, the thing that we did on the last day, it's not working for me. Can we do it over again? And you're like, okay, so we just have lost 1 day for them, for me. And so in their mind, it's not efficient. In my mind, it's not efficient. And so that's why I changed.
So it's good for your client, but it's really good for you because you you take your mirror board or your templates and you go to the clients and it's always the same. So you don't have the pre-work. And I guess also in your offer, when you are talking about negotiation and prices, I guess this is part of it. So you can explain them. So the process is like this. We are starting with a workshop, right?
Yeah. And I think that the price is always the same, right? Because what I do is that workshop and a recap, it's a PowerPoint presentation for 15 slides, plain and simple. And I know that the whole process is gonna take me 2 days to do that. Right? So I need 2 days, two full days to have the workshop, have the design, work on the design, because I'm going to add on my expertise, which is engagement, obviously, right? So in the recap, I'm going to add some things, right? It's not going to be blunt as they imagined it, but I'm going to add some stuff. This is where I do my consulting work. But then I know that now I need 2 days for one workshop. If I have 5 workshops, I know that I need 10 days. So it's really easy for me to organize myself, as the framework is always the same.
Great. So now we are all curious about this workshop, about this framework.
Really?
Does it have a name?
So I called it a co-design workshop.
Okay.
Because it's always about co-designing an experience, whatever the experience is. So as I said, it can be a seminar, it can be a meeting. And so it's a co-design workshop. And then, that's the title I give it, usually.
So will we have the pleasure that you walk us through this workshop so that we see how it works?
Definitely, yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the Miro board that I use. So as you can see, I called it my signature workshop because, well, let's face it,
this is your signature workshop.
And I always like to start, well, specifically if it's the first workshop. If it's not the first one, then usually I'm not gonna do the icebreaker. But if it's the first one, I love that icebreaker because it's really easy to implement, and it allows people to get comfortable in a workshop. You know, when you have like 5 or 6 people in the same room, whether it's digital or it's a face-to-face workshop, because I still do a little bit of face-to-face sometimes. It's always the first few minutes are always kind of weird because people are looking at each other, and instead of saying it's the beginning of the year, so now we are saying Happy New Year's, but then what comes afterwards, right? So in order to make sure that people get relaxed and everything, I like to start with that icebreaker, which is if I have to ask you, and maybe we can do it, Nettie, right? What would be your middle name and the name of your first pet?
So Marie Mustafa.
There you go. So that would be your star name, right? And so
Marie Mustafa. Wow.
Yeah, Marie Mustafa. And mine would be Peter Nushka. And so that's your star name. And so you write it there, right? And then if I have to do groups, I'm going to take the star name and it's going to follow the group for the rest of the workshop, which is kind of great because people are having a laugh about it, and it doesn't last long, because the problem is in 2 hours, if I take half an hour for everybody to present themselves and a fun fact about themselves, then I don't have enough time anymore. So I just do this as an introduction, and then we actually move directly into the workshop. And the first actual step of the workshop is all about objectives. So here you have an example where, let's say that it's a training, and I ask participants to fill in that sentence that is just right there, which is at the end of the training, participants should be able to ... and then they just write post-it notes, as many as they want, right? No rules here. If I have 10, then we'll sort them out afterwards. Then once we have done that, I'm going to ask them to vote. So using the voting option that we have on Miro, they're going to have 3 votes, and they're going to put dots on the learning objectives, which actually fits the best the actual program or the module that we are designing. Once we have done that, so that allows us to narrow it down to maybe 3, 4, 5 learning objectives, because I rarely go over 5. And once this is done, then we're going to rephrase them using a tool that is called the Bloom's taxonomy, and asking them what is the level that you want for your participants. So I'm not going to go into the details. If people are curious about the Bloom's taxonomy, you can check it online. You have the framework is there, and you can use it in order to create good objectives and to make sure that they are the right level. Once we have done that, we are all set on 3 to 5 learning objectives. Then we're going to move the learning objective right there. So LO stands for learning objectives. So I'm going to actually, these are columns. We don't see that well.
But okay. Better, and right? All learning objectives.
And learning objectives. So we move them there, right? And then I ask the group to think about the key messages, or think about the ingredients that we need to achieve these objectives. So basically it's quite simple. Let's say, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that I'm building a training on how to do a great barbecue, right? One of my learning objective would be to list all the items, all the objects that I need to have a great barbecue, right? So this is my objective. And let's say that I have 5. So list 5 items that I need to have a great barbecue. This is my first objective. Well, underneath, my key messages are going to be, well, I need an actual barbecue, right? It can be let's say that it's a Weber Genesis, right? Then I need some gloves because otherwise I'm going to burn myself. Then I'm going to need food because obviously, well, to have a great barbecue, I need food, meat,
vegetables. Oh, now I want to have a barbecue. Sorry.
And so the key messages are all the ingredients that I need in order to reach that objective. Okay. And so we're going to do this for every learning objective, are going to have their key messages or ingredients. I maxed out with 10 because I think that more than 10 is going to be difficult then. But 10 key messages per learning objective is going to be the maximum item that I would like to have on those columns. Once we have done that, then we're going to move to on the right to the storyboard. The concept is quite simple. From the ingredients, right? So we have all the ingredients that are important. It's like if you want to cook, right? You need all the ingredients to make it happen. Well, in the storyboard, we decide on the order that we want to put the ingredients, right? So if it's, for example, if we are designing a seminar, we know that for the seminar, we want some great activities. We want to have a team building activity. We want to have some conferences. The CEO would like to talk and so on and so forth. So these are the ingredients that we need in order to have a great experience for our participants. Well, now, altogether, we're going to be deciding on what is the order that we want. And we put them in those boxes. And so what we try to do is to regroup them in chunks, all right? Because these are going to become sequences. And that's why you have a title here. Because you just create sequences. You say, what should we start with? Well, we're going to start with probably an activity as an icebreaker in a seminar because we want people to have a great time. Then we probably gonna move to an introduction, and that should be maybe the title of that step, introduction. And in the introduction, we want the CEO to talk because it's important for him to talk first. And then we might have an introduction about the agenda, what's going to be happening, all the steps, or some information about the venue, and so on and so forth. And so we design that part, right? Moving just ingredients in the right spot, okay? Once we have done that, we're going to do that for exactly step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and sky is the limit, right? If we are designing a 3-day seminar, I'm telling you, I'm going to have a lot more boxes than just 6, right?
Yeah. Just for understanding for me, so you could mix actually, because you have on the step before was where the learning objectives, and now what we are talking about are the key messages, right?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
you could very good mix the key messages from different learning objectives.
Absolutely.
In the next step, right?
Yeah. Because the vision behind that is everything that we do, everything that we want to create, there is an objective first. And so that's why I use the same framework for strategies.
Absolutely.
What is the objective that you want to reach, right? If we are building a strategy in 6 months, I'm asking the people in the room, what do you want to reach? What is the end picture? Tell me. And so we create objectives. This is what we want to get out. At the end of anything, this is where we want to go. From this, we need to add on all the ingredients, all the key messages, all the things to make these objectives happen. I totally agree with you. The whole point then is to mix and match them.
Yeah.
We will never have, rarely, it's going to be kind of, it's not odd, it can happen, but it doesn't happen quite often to have a whole learning objective as a sequence.
Yeah.
Most of the time we have different ingredients from different objectives that are going to go in the first sequence because it fits. And this is our vision. And this is how it should happen. So we tell a story with the ingredients a little bit like you would do in cooking, right? you will not put all the ingredients of the same category at the same time. It would not make sense. Well, it's exactly the same thing for designing an experience.
Yeah. I really like it. It makes me think about the framework I use myself to create workshops, for example. I was just thinking you are talking about learning objectives. I would talk about outcome and then the objective we want to experience during the workshop to come to the outcome.
Yeah. Oh, I think that if we talk about designing a workshop, as you said, we would have an outcome, we would have a deliverable, because this is the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Here, as I'm talking about an experience as a whole, the outcome would be for me the storyline, right? Or the outcome can be in the objective. Because sometimes, again, I'm going to take the example of a seminar. If we're designing a seminar, most of the time, one of the objectives of the seminar is to engage people, to make sure that they have a great time. And so this is the objective for them. But it could be an outcome that we want. So I'm putting them in the same box. Yeah, that's correct.
Nice. It's actually very simple, huh?
It is. And then again, I tweak it a little bit depending on whether it's a strategy. If it's a complex a training, then I would add a layer where it would be asynchronous, synchronous, and practice. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but this is the framework is always the same, three steps, simple. And then from this, I change it a little bit. When it's more complicated, I need extra layers to make sure that we go in the right direction.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing this. It shows that when we create something, it doesn't need to be complicated. This is what I meant by simple. You know that my word for this year is simplify. Simplify everything. So I will take examples from you to simplify all my process. Because when you know exactly what you need, you don't need to turn around. How do you say this in English? This is a good question. Tourner autour du pot.
I think it's turn around the bush, right?
Yeah.
Turn around the bush. You can be straightforward. Yeah.
So thank you very, very much for sharing this. What would you say to someone who has an expertise as a consultant, a trainer, a coach, a facilitator about creating a signature workshop?
So I think that the first one you talked about it, try to make it simple. I think that we complexify a lot. We want things that are going to be complex because we have a strong belief that if it's too simple, then our clients are going to think that it is too simple, right? So we don't add value. And I think that the value that we add is in the facilitation process more than the boxes that you want to fill. And so I think that if you want to create your signature workshop, I always give the same framework to anyone who would like to create a workshop. And again, I love simple methods, and it's always the same thing. I always say that if you want to add facilitation to whatever you want, it has to start with a question, right? My first question, for instance, was it's a sentence to fill in, but still it could be a question. And we want to ask people to give you a lot of ideas to diverge, right? And so we start with a question, or we start to a sentence to fill in, which would be something along the lines of, at the end of what do you want people to be able to do, or what do you want people to express? What do you want the strategy to look like?
Yeah.
So
Depends
that comes back to the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And then you go into that diverge phase where you allow everyone to actually put in some post-it notes, right? And to give their ideas. And then you converge, you vote. And you can vote 100 ways. We don't really care about the vote. I always use dot voting because in my experience, you don't need to be original in your method, right? If your methodology was working, I can use 6 times the same methodology. A good thing about this is that your clients are going to get used to the methodology, and so they're going to go faster.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more efficient.
Totally agree. Agree. Yeah.
So simplifying a lot the process is always good, and we think that we need to complexify, because when things are complex, there is a feeling that you add value. But in my experience, when it's complex, you're not going in the right direction, and people are going to be like, I don't understand, and so you get stuck for a long time. So I think that the first tip would be this. And then the second tip, I started to talk about it, but start with a question, diverge, converge, and then deliver. And this is the method that I use all the time for every single sequence of a workshop. if I have several deliverable, it's always going to go the same way. Question, diverge, converge, and then debrief or deliver if it's a workshop. And I use the same thing for my trainings, right? I love to have trainings where I add a lot of facilitation in them because I know it's working. People are more engaged. People learn better. And I use the same technique. Question to open the subject. Diverge. I ask people to give their ideas. Converge towards the best ideas. And then debrief. And on the debrief, I'm going to give them the content that I want them to have. So I think that this framework can work for a lot of things. And again, it's simple.
Yeah. Yes, I think I learned that from you and from another person that always ask first. And I do this even in my webinar. So I'm giving a free class on something. I would always, before each things that I will deliver, I will always ask first, then eventually give a learning, and then helping the people to apply it directly, and then ask again for the next thing. This is really something, it's always working because this is the only way to engage people.
And I would add something on top of this. There was a neuroscientist, who did a cone that is called the Edgar Dale cone. And he showed that if you tell someone something, you teach them something, right? And you do tell them and they hear it, after 2 weeks, they will remember 20% of what they hear. But if they actually say it out loud, so you ask the question, it's the right answer, they will remember 70% of what they said. So there is a gap of 50%. If you just ask a question and someone is telling you, they will remember 50% of what they are saying. They will remember 20% of what they heard. So in training, in learning in general, it does work to facilitate, to ask questions, to ask the group to tell you what is the content rather than giving the content. And I think that, coming back to that workshop style learning, the more facilitation you can add into a learning or even into meetings, right? I accompany sometimes companies in meetings where they say, you know what, my meeting is the most boring ever. Can we do something about it? And we actually use facilitation. We use facilitation techniques to make the meeting interesting, right? And so people are going to fill in post-it notes. They're going to type into the chat. Even if you have 100 people, right? Simpler exercises are going to engage people. And so they're going to learn better and they're going to remember better. And so it creates engagement as a result in the company.
Thank you so much for all this insight, for sharing the board, for your enthusiasm to speak about it, for the icebreaker that you gave us. I might use it for myself. I will put in the show notes your contact. Actually, you should do a template for Mirrorverse, by the way.
Yeah, I need to take the time to do that. But it's a good idea, maybe I should do that. But the thing is, I would like to make it. I'm working actually on making it more engaging visually, because it's still kind of it's working really well for me. But I would love to maybe using AI or whatever, but to have some sort of a whole picture where everything is really well designed and everything. And maybe we can work together.
Yeah, maybe we can work together on it, because I love doing mirror boards. Thank you. And yes, I'm sure we will stay in contact.
Thank you very much, Nadi. Bye.
Bye.